She slammed the paper on my porch and shouted, "You'll regret this. I'm taking you to court." I stood there, still holding the measuring tape I'd been using for my backyard fence. I didn't even understand what she meant at first. How could my house, which had been here for 5 years, suddenly be a problem? But that's how it always started with her, Karen from the HOA. The woman who acted like the entire neighborhood was her personal kingdom. That morning, she was red-faced, holding some crumpled papers that looked like fake legal documents. "You built outside the HOA's visual zone," she said, trying to sound official. "Your house blocks the community's mountain view. We're suing you." I wanted to laugh, but her serious tone made me pause. "Ma'am," I said carefully, "this house was approved by the county inspector. The HOA didn't even exist when I built it." She squinted at me, furious. "That doesn't matter anymore. We have new bylaws, and you're violating them." I could see my daughter peeking through the window, worried. That was enough for me to stay calm. "All right," I told her, "if you think I'm breaking a rule, send me the official notice from your attorney. I'll respond." Her lips twitched. "Oh, you'll get it," she hissed. Then she stormed away, heels clicking on the pavement like a warning. 2 days later, I got the letter. HOA vs. me. Claim. Property constructed in violation of visual harmony standards. I laughed again, but not because it was funny. Because it was insane. The letter looked like it was written on Microsoft Word by someone who just discovered bold fonts. But things turned strange fast. A white SUV started parking across my driveway every evening. A man with a camera kept taking photos of my house. Then Karen showed up again, this time with 3 HOA members holding clipboards like detectives. She pointed to my home. "See, that second-floor window destroys the mountain view symmetry. It's an eyesore." One of the HOA men nodded seriously. "We'll need to escalate this to the county." That's when something inside me snapped. I stepped closer and said quietly, "Go ahead. But before you do, make sure you understand who approved this build." Karen folded her arms. "Oh please, what are you gonna do? Cry to your builder?" I smiled slightly. "No, I might just remind the court who designed this entire neighborhood layout." For a second, her confident grin faltered. "What?" she asked, voice suddenly softer. I didn't say anything else. I just turned, walked back into my house, and shut the door. But inside, I opened my old laptop, the one with files most people forgot existed, blueprints, approvals, and one document that could end this entire HOA power game in a single hearing. As I stared at the old folder labeled Land Ownership, County Master Plan, I muttered under my breath, "You picked the wrong guy to mess with, Karen." The court day came faster than I expected. The HOA had gone full drama mode. Karen showed up in a bright red suit, carrying a folder like she was some kind of prosecutor. Behind her were 2 board members and that same guy with the camera, smirking like they'd already won. I walked in calmly, wearing my old navy blue jacket. No lawyer, no fancy documents in hand, just a small brown envelope. Karen spotted me and whispered loudly to her friends, "He's not even bringing representation. This will be quick." The judge entered, an older man with sharp eyes and a tired voice. "HOA vs. Mr. Miller. Let's make this fast." Karen jumped up immediately. "Your Honor, this man illegally extended his home beyond the HOA visual boundary, blocking the scenic view for our community. We demand immediate reconstruction and penalty fines." The judge looked at me. "Your response, Mr. Miller." I stepped forward slowly. "Your Honor, before I say anything, may I ask when this HOA was officially formed?" Karen rolled her eyes. "That doesn't matter." The judge raised a hand. "Answer the question." Karen hesitated. 2 years ago." I nodded. "Thank you. And just for the record, my home was built and approved 6 years ago, by the county itself. I have the original permits and zoning clearance right here." I placed the brown envelope on the table and opened it carefully, revealing stamped, signed, and dated documents. The judge leaned forward, scanning each paper. His brows lifted slightly. "County signatures, official engineering approval, and the HOA formation date, interesting." Karen's face turned pale. "That can't be right. He's lying. He's using fake documents." I smiled faintly. "You sure about that? Because these signatures belong to the man who designed your entire HOA layout. And I should know, Karen, I was that man's assistant." The courtroom went silent. Karen blinked, confused. Assistant. What do you mean? I pulled out the last sheet, a faded blueprint marked with initials at the bottom. The man who designed your HOA's master plan was my late father. I helped him with every zoning document before this place even existed. My home wasn't built outside your boundaries, your HOA was built after mine. The judge chuckled, shaking his head. Ms. Karen, I'm afraid you might have sued the wrong person. This man's property predates your authority. Karen's voice cracked. No, that's impossible. He blocked the view. The judge looked up. You're dismissed, Ms. Karen. And if I were you, I'd drop this before I consider fines for wasting court time. Karen's jaw clenched. She turned, glaring at me with a look that could kill. This isn't over, she hissed. I leaned closer and whispered, you're right. It's not, because now it's my turn. She froze for a moment before storming out of the courtroom, heels echoing like gunshots on marble. I knew that sound meant one thing, she was about to double down. And I was ready. 2 days later, I woke up to the sound of metal clanking outside. When I looked through the blinds, my heart nearly stopped. There was a tow truck backing into my driveway. My truck, the one I used for work, was already hooked and halfway off the ground. I rushed outside barefoot. Hey, what do you think you're doing? The driver didn't even look at me. HOA order, he muttered. Non-compliant vehicle storage. Karen stood a few feet away, arms crossed, sipping from a travel mug like she was watching her favorite show. You were warned, she said smugly. You can't keep that ugly truck on display in this neighborhood. I stepped in front of the tow truck. That vehicle's registered, insured, and parked in my own driveway. Karen tilted her head, smiling like a shark. Driveway or not, it violates our visual harmony clause. Section 7B. Karen, I said quietly, trying to control my temper, you lost in court 2 days ago. You can't enforce anything against me. She took a slow sip from her mug. Oh, this isn't about your house anymore. This is personal. For a moment, I just stared at her. The driver looked uncomfortable. Sir, I don't want any trouble. I raised a hand. You'll have more than trouble if you touch that truck. You'll have a legal case against you. Here's your chance, drop it and walk away. He hesitated, then slowly lowered the truck back to the ground and drove off without another word. Karen's smug face twisted. You can't scare everyone with your fake legal talk. Fake. I reached into my pocket and held up my badge, not a cop's badge, but a Department of Land and Infrastructure seal. This, fake legal talk, comes from the same department that signs your HOA permits. Her eyes widened. You work for the government. Not exactly, I said, stepping closer. I audit land rights and property disputes. You think I didn't know you were filing false reports? You've been sending letters to half this neighborhood, threatening people with imaginary violations. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. For the first time, she looked afraid. Don't worry, I said softly, I'm not going to sue you. Not yet. Then what are you going to do? She whispered. I smiled faintly. I'm going to let you keep talking. Because people like you always bury themselves. That night, I started printing copies of every notice, every false claim she'd sent, not just to me, but to other homeowners. I contacted 3 of them, and they were more than ready to talk. By morning, we had a folder full of evidence and one plan, to expose Karen's little empire at the next HOA meeting. I remember whispering to myself as I sealed the folder, you wanted a war, Karen. Now you'll get one. The night of the HOA meeting, the community hall was packed. Every neighbor Karen had ever harassed showed up, people clutching letters, photos, and phone recordings. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Karen walked in like a queen entering her throne room, fake smile plastered across her face. Good evening, everyone, she began, tapping her clipboard. Before we start, I'd like to address recent misinformation being spread by certain residents who mean people like me. I interrupted, standing up from the back. The room went quiet. Every eye turned toward me. Karen froze, clearly not expecting me to show up. Mr. Miller, this is a private HOA matter. Perfect, I said, walking to the front. Because this private HOA matter is about to become public record. I dropped the folder onto the table with a loud smack. The sound echoed through the hall. What's this? She snapped. Every notice you forged. Every threat letter you mailed. Every fake fine you charged homeowners to keep the neighborhood beautiful. I looked at the crowd. You charged the Jenkins family $1,200 for planting a tree without your approval. You threatened to evict the Parkers for painting their door beige instead of approved taupe. And you called the cops on a single mom for hosting a birthday party. People started murmuring, their faces turning from confusion to anger. Karen's face flushed. Lies. These are all fabricated. He's trying to manipulate the neighborhood, I said calmly. Then explain why your name is signed as acting authority on wall letters from before the HOA was even registered. A gasp rippled across the room. One of the board members turned toward her. Karen, is that true? She stuttered. I was just trying to bring order to this place. I leaned in closer. You brought chaos. You acted like you owned everyone's home. But you forgot one simple thing, people always record. I raised my phone and played a clip. Her voice filled the room, sharp and entitled. I don't care what the county says, I make the rules here. If he doesn't tear that down, I'll ruin him. The crowd erupted. People shouted, some stood up. The board members looked panicked. Karen tried to shout over them. You can't use that recording, it's illegal. It's not, I said quietly. You said that in front of my security camera, while trespassing on my property. That hit her hard. She froze, then her expression turned desperate. You're making a mistake, Miller. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I met her glare and said, neither do you. Just then, a knock echoed from the door. 2 county officers walked in, holding a file. One of them spoke firmly, Karen Dawson. We have a warrant for your arrest, impersonation of legal authority and harassment under Section 12B of the HOA Code. The entire hall went silent. Karen's mouth fell open as the officer read her rights. The same neighbors she bullied watched in stunned disbelief as she was handcuffed and led out the door. And as she passed me, she whispered under her breath, you think this ends here? I leaned in just enough for her to hear, it already did. The door closed behind her, and the room erupted in applause. When the hall finally emptied, I stayed back alone, staring at the scattered papers on the table. The same neighbors who once avoided eye contact with me had just walked up to shake my hand. Some even apologized for believing Karen's lies. But I didn't feel proud, just tired. Years of tension, threats, and constant battles over my own land had finally ended. Outside, the night was calm. The mountains she claimed I blocked were glowing under the moonlight. I stood on my porch, took a deep breath, and finally felt peace settle in. My daughter ran out and hugged me tight. Daddy, is the bad lady gone? She asked softly. I smiled, brushing her hair aside. She's gone, sweetheart. And she's not coming back. For a few days, things stayed quiet. Then a letter arrived, not from the HOA, but from the county courthouse. It was official. The HOA leadership is under investigation for fraud and misuse of authority. Karen had dragged the whole board down with her. Every fine she collected, every threat she made, it was all being audited. A week later, a new letter came. This time, it wasn't an accusation. It was an offer. The community had voted to dissolve the current HOA and rebuild under new leadership. And at the bottom, someone had written in neat handwriting, we want you to be the new head of the neighborhood council. I laughed out loud when I read it. Me. After all that. But deep down, I knew it made sense. People didn't need another Karen, they needed someone who understood what real fairness looked like. That weekend, I stood before the same crowd, this time as their elected representative. No more fake fines, I said. No more fake authority. This neighborhood belongs to the people who live here, not the ones who try to control it. They clapped, but what hit me the most was seeing everyone finally relaxed, kids playing, families smiling. No more fear. As I looked toward the mountain view, I said the line that went viral later when the story hit the news. Greater than, she said my house blocked her view, but all she ever blocked was her own heart. That clip spread everywhere, turning into a symbol of standing up to corrupt power. Later, as I closed my gate that evening, I noticed the old HOA sign had been taken down. Just an empty post left behind. I smiled, whispered to myself, justice doesn't need to shout, it just needs to stand. And for the first time in years, it truly felt like home again. The end.